Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. Today, after the old day job, I am off to check out the new Kung Fu movie, Twilight of the Warriors, Walled In. So what's the plot of this movie? Well, in all honesty, guys, I don't know, because I found this movie in my AMC app, and then I decided to just watch the trailer. Like, I like to get my information from the trailer rather than looking it up or something like that. And honestly, I couldn't really tell much except for the fact that this looks like a really cool Kung Fu movie. Most of it is in Cantonese, and then what they do is kind of flash some English on the screen and just kind of gives you rules for what not to do in the walled city. So I decided to pull up old IMDb up on my computer screen here, so I'm just going to read to you guys what the plot of this story is, okay? Get ready, here we go. So it follows troubled youth Chan as he accidentally enters the walled city, discovers the order amongst its chaos, and learns important life lessons along the way. Well, now that sounds awfully wholesome, doesn't it? This sounds more like a Mr. Rogers film than a Kung Fu movie. Well, you know what? It's enough of me sitting here yammering on. It's time for me to get out the door because first I got to get to the day job, and then I'm off to see Twilight of the Warriors, Walled In. Welcome back, just getting home, and guys, I really enjoyed this movie. I liked it a lot more than I was really expecting to. This film really surprised me. Not only was it a really fun martial arts film, but it also had a very strong emotional core. So let's get this started, shall we? We're going to get things started with negatives, then move into positives to end the video on the ever so important high note. Okay, so this isn't necessarily a negative. This is more of a prepare yourself for this. This film is subtitled. And those subtitles, in my opinion, really moved quickly in this film. There are a lot of dialogue moments in this movie, and things can get a little overwhelming if you're trying to read everything on the screen and take in everything that's going on. Because believe me, this film uses every inch of its screen. And I'm not just talking about the fight sequences. I'm going to get a little bit more into it. This movie is just a tad on the long side. I think some people might find this film a little slow in areas. There is a lot of dialogue in this film. There is a lot of character development. There's a lot of story, and it does take its time telling its story and developing its characters. I'm not going to say this movie is a slow burn by any means. It's just when there isn't action on the screen, there's a lot of dialogue on the screen. Quite literally on the screen. So pay very close attention because these are some really well-developed and very likable characters. And let's get into that, shall we? Let's move into the positives. The first thing I want to talk about is the characters. I really liked all of the characters in this film. The movie does a good job of developing and fleshing out at least the main characters that we follow throughout the film. And these people really start to take on a life of their own, and you really start to get behind them and root for them as the movie progresses. This movie also has a very solid story behind it. This is not, yes, it is a typical Kung Fu film, and I'll get to that in just a moment, but there are elements of this movie that make it different than a lot. I used the comparison of Gangs of New York, and yeah, this movie does have a very Gangs of New York vibe because, you know, there's different gangs competing in this walled-in city for domination. But the difference difference being, this movie really plays more like a traditional kung fu movie. If you've seen the old school stuff from way back in the day, like the feudalism era, or whatever you want to say, way back machine, okay? And in those films, you had lords and they had land, and each one of the lords' martial arts masters or whatever, each one of their schools had special techniques and different styles, and they all had their own abilities and so on. And this movie follows in that same direction, where you have the different gangs instead of lords, and it really does kind of bring a familiar tone to something that's actually a bit more unfamiliar. The fight choreography in this film is also ridiculously good. Not only is it amazingly stylish and a lot of fun to watch, each one of the hits feels like it lands with power. You almost feel every single moment of this movie. The stunts are extremely well done and look great. The visuals in this film, this is what I was talking about when I mean it uses every inch of your screen. The visuals, the city, the Walden City, it almost has its own character itself, and everything really adds its own flair and gives everything its own unique look because of the fact they're in this Walden City, which is almost like one giant apartment building. Okay, that's a good way of putting it, with a lot of exposed spaces. But everyone's just kind of crammed in there. And what that's done is yes, it's breeded a lot of underground criminals and so on and so forth, but it also has given the people that live there a very strong community. Everyone in the Walden City works together and tries to have some formation of community. And I liked the fact that the film really does focus on things like community, family. Yes, there of course is your typical revenge and vengeance and things of that sort, but this film really focuses on the idea of finding your own tribe. If you do not have blood family, getting out there and finding people to fill that void. And I feel that the film focuses on that more than the actual kung fu itself. And I really enjoyed that about this film. Now, like I said, it does get a little draggy, but all in all, this is a very solid, get out there, check this film out, because it looked so good up on the big screen. Like I said, the set design, everything looks so good and so well put together. People really put a lot of love and care into this film. I didn't bring up the cinematography, but the cinematography is also outstanding. The filming in the fight choreography scenes is outstanding. I loved it. It's very fast paced, but it's not shaky cam. It's just very fast paced. You would expect from a film like this. So all in all, guys, if this movie is in your area, get out there, support this film, because my gosh, if we don't get out there and watch movies like this in theaters, we're not gonna get movies like this in theaters anymore. And with the amount of people that complain all the time about how there's never anything original in the movies anymore, well, here you go. Here's your chance to go see something original. Well, alright guys, that's all I have for you today. Thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And hopefully when you come back, my voice is back in order. I'm still getting over the sickness. So anyways, guys, thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here, go ahead, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.